books 2 through 4 of the Republic, Socrates creates the criteria of a perfectly just city. In this video, I will compare Socrates' criteria to the city of Detroit in order to find out if the city of Detroit is indeed just or unjust, according to Socrates. First off, Socrates presents the principle of specialization, which states that each person must perform the role he is naturally suited and that he must not meddle in any other business. This way, everything can be done at the highest level possible. He then goes on to divide all the citizens into 3 different categories: the producers, the guardians, and the rulers. The producers included people like craftsmen, farmers, doctors, etc. He also stated that a city can be ran solely on producers, in which we would call an unhealthy city, governed by only its necessary desires. But let's face it, a city of only producers is quite boring, so he inserts merchants, tutors, beauticians, and other entertainment. Now, in order to keep the peace with these new additions added to the city, he introduces the next class, which are the guardians. Now, regarding the guardians, Socrates makes it quite clear that they need to be gentle and tough, not thugs, nor wimpy and ineffective. They need to be spirited, honor-loving, physically fit, and have a just education. Now, the last class Socrates presents are the rulers. The ruler's job is to make their city as a whole happy. They can't provide favoritism to any one group. Neither can they obtain any private wealth to refrain from being corrupted. Now that the classes of citizens are accounted for, Socrates goes on to say that the city should be small because it's virtually impossible for a large city to be governed under this system. Socrates then makes a claim that there will be no wealth or poverty in this just city because there will be absolutely no money. Citizens then would have to barter for goods and services in order to prevent corruption inside of this just city. But then one may argue, how can a city without money protect itself? Socrates states that the guardians will protect the city, also seek help from its neighbors by promising them the spoils of war. Now, to conclude Socrates' idea of a just city, he includes 4 points of virtues that need to be present inside of the city: wisdom, courage, moderation, and justice. Wisdom lies with the ruler because of their knowledge of how the city should be ran. Because they are in charge, their wisdom becomes the city's virtue. Courage lies with the guardians because they are the only ones whose courage counts as a virtue of the city because they are the ones that must fight for the city. Moderation is identified with the agreement over who should rule the city, and justice is the principle of specialization as stated before. Now that we've identified Socrates' idea of a just city, let's compare it to Detroit. First off, the principle of specialization is non-existent in Detroit. Citizens may choose to pursue any career no matter how unbeneficial it is to society. And although the classes Socrates presents in his just city are present in Detroit, the prerequisite for being in a certain class differs tremendously. For example, the guardian class. In order to become a guardian in Socrates' city, he must be brought up at a young age to pursue being a guardian, and must be taken to war to learn the art of fighting, and given a just education as stated before. Now, according to the City of Detroit's website, in order to become a police officer, you need to be at least 18 years of age, a US citizen, vision must be 20/20, have a driver's license, and have no crimes on your record. In other words, pretty much anyone can become a defender or guardian of Detroit, as opposed to Socrates' guardians who are bred at a young age to become defenders of justice. This may play a part as to why Detroit has one of the highest death rates in the United States, but this is loose speculation. Now, moving on to the ruler class in Socrates' city, the rulers are handpicked from the guardian class and given certain tests that gauges his loyalty to the city and also his understanding of form. And as stated before, the ruler can't hold any private wealth. These prerequisites are present in order to prevent corruption in the ruler. Unfortunately, anyone can be elected ruler of Detroit as long as he has a majority vote, no matter how unintelligent or corrupt he or she is. Democracy at its finest. If Kwame Kilpatrick didn't receive wealth from his terms in office, he would have never been corrupted and probably would be running for presidency at this moment rather than serving a 20-year bid in the pen. As you can see, the city of Detroit doesn't live up to Socrates' criteria of a perfectly just city. It can be inferred that Detroit's shortcomings can be accredited to its unjust laws and political system. If Detroit were to adopt Socrates' ideals of a just city, then I am completely positive that Detroit can turn from being one of the worst cities in the US to one of the most prosperous. It is amazing that thousands of year old text manages to stay relevant to this day.